And good evening. My name is Prince Jimmy. Today we are going to deep dive into understanding how to configure SSH for remote user and monitor activities on your network. So this is actually a case scenario that is going to be very practical. So for our student today, we are going to spend much time to understand how this is done practically. Okay, so on the screen now, we have the case scenario. It is very practical, like I said. So this is what we are going to look at throughout this video. Now, let me read out the scenario and what we are expected to complete at the end of this exercise. You have been assigned as the system administrator for a training environment where multiple students need to access a Kali Linux server remotely, that is from different locations. Now your goal is to set up user accounts for each student, configure SSH for secured remote access, and ensure their activities are logged for monitoring purpose. So what you are going to do are also listed, what is expected and what is expected to be completed before the end of this video. The first thing, you have to create an account for all the students using their surname. That is to say, if the student name is John Doe, so and Doe is the surname, so the username for that particular student will be Doe. So you have to create an account for all the students using their surname, at least 4 users, that is 4 students, student A, student B, student C, and student D on your Kali Linux machine. After you've done that, that is to create the user account for each of the students, you would then assign each student a password. Yeah, so each student will have a password, a login password. Then after that, enable on your system, on your server, on your Kali Linux server, enable SSH. That is if it is not already enabled. Then after that, modify the SSH configuration to allow SSH access for only newly created users. So which means that you have to give these students or these remote users SSH access to your system, to your server, which is going to act as a server. So you're going to disable root login via SSH for security purpose, so other people cannot log in, only the people that you've given access to. All right, so you are going to provide SSH connection instruction to your students. The instruction, like their username and their password, this will enable them to be able to log into their account. So assuming they will be logging in from a remote location using your public IP address or domain if available. Domain means, supposing you have a domain name like www.blah.com, but since you do not have, or if you do not have a domain name like I have just mentioned, all you will give to your student is your public IP address, and in the course of this training, you will see how we will be able to get that. Okay, so the next is you will configure the system to lock each student SSH login attempt and activity. So you know the number of login attempts. So you are going to configure this so that you should be able to see the login attempt for each of the users. All right, so you are going to review the logs of each user session and provide evidence of monitoring by showing this evidence. So what that means is that you are going to review logs. So whenever your remote user logs into, and whatever they are doing in your server, you should be able to monitor their session. Now, the last login time for each user, you are going to also check that. Now, the command executed by all the remote user is all the part of monitoring what you are going to check as part of your monitoring. All right, so after that, you are going to implement a basic security measure like fail to ban. Fail to ban is actually used for security measure in the in Kali Linux or in the Linux operating system to prevent brute force SSH login attempt. Again, you are going to implement a basic security measures like fail to ban to prevent brute force SSH login attempt. Okay, and allow SSH traffic through firewalls, ensuring the SSH service is accessible for remote location. So what that means is that you are going to enable your firewalls and also define a role for it. Then after that is done, the mode of submission, that is for you students, upon taking this assignment or taking this task, what you are going to submit back to me for assessment include screenshots or terminal output of the SSH configuration file. I mean /etc/ssh/sshd config file showing the modification you made. Evidence that student A, student B, student C, and student D can log in remotely via SSH. Logs showing the SSH activities of all the users, that is all the students, including their login time and actions performed. A brief explanation of the step taken to prevent unauthorized SSH access using a security tool like fail to ban. So these are all the things we are going to look at. Now, after all that is done, optionally, you can also set up a centralized login using syslog to forward SSH activities logs to central server if applicable to your environment. But this is actually optional. Okay, so I wish you good luck for this, and the rest of the video will explain in detail, step by step, how you are going to get this done. This program is brought to you by the program coordinator, myself, Prince Jimmy. Thank you, and we'll meet in the other class. We have to put on our virtual box. All right, so I want to put on my Kali machine also, that is seated here on virtual machine. So I will click on start to fire up my machine. All right, this will not take much of our time, but I can also pause it and start whenever the machine is completed. All right, so our machine is up and running. So here we are in our terminal. The first thing we are going to look at is to do what? To install our SSH. We are going to install our SSH. That is if you do not have SSH installed. So we're going to install that already, and I'm sure my system have it, but the command you use to install your SSH is sudo apt. But before you install your SSH, you have to update your system by sudo apt update. All right, update. So that will run update on your system if you click on enter. But because my system is updated and I have SSH, I'm only showing you the command. So that is a command that you start with first to run your updates. Then after your updates, the next you will do is to install your SSH provider, like open SSH server. All right, and that command is sudo apt install open SSH server. That is because your system is going to act as a server. So because I have this already installed in my system, I will not need to install them again. But this is the command that you use. Once you press enter, your system will download open SSH server. So now we move to the next one. Like I said, I will not want to download again since I have it already. Okay, so the next one is after you have downloaded it, you have to enable your SSH. Enable and start it. And for you to enable your SSH, the command is sudo systemctl enable SSH. All right, so if I tap on enter, it will prompt. All right, so the next in this training is to configure SSH access for students. All right, so before we do that, we have to do what? We have to add student account. So let's clear off this. Sorry about this. Okay, so let's clear off this. Yes, so now what we are about to do is, now we have 4 students, and these students are working remotely from different locations. So what we are going to do now, we are going to create an account for them so that they will be able to have access to our server remotely. So let's start the process of creating an account for them. All right, so the first student, I will create an account using a sudo add user, then the student name. The student name in this case is Chukuma. Chukuma. All right, let me take a note of that. Chukuma. So that is the name of the first student. So I will press enter. All right, so now I'm being asked to put in a password. Don't forget, you also have to provide a password for each of the students. So I'll provide a password for Chukuma, and the password for Chukuma will be, for security reason, all right, so I have done that, and I also confirm the password. All right, passwords are meant to be kept secret. That is the reason why you cannot say it typed. All right. So you can also provide some other information about the user here, but in this case I can just say Chukuma Ayodele. All right. So that is the full name of the user, and this I will give not applicable, phone number not applicable, not applicable, not applicable. If you have this information in your environment, you can add to it, but for the purpose of this training, we will not want to waste our time. Okay, we also have another way of creating a user without all this. Using a command add user will give you option to be able to put all this custom information, like the full name Chukuma, like the room number, like the work phone, and the rest, and also information opportunity to input their password. But then after this first user, then the other users, I will use the other command for creating user. So I will tap enter and a question will prompt. Is the information correct? I will say yes, very correct. And that is all. So which means I have succeeded in creating an account for Chukuma. All right. So like I said before, this I use add user, but the following ones I am going to use user add. And user add will not give me the opportunity to put in this custom information. So which means after that I will have to create a password for individual users. All right, so sudo, sorry, that is supposed to be lower letter, sudo. All right, now user add, instead of add user add, the next student will be Ayo. All right, and enter. You observe that when I was using add user, I was given opportunity to input the password for the user and also some other custom detail. But when I'm using user add, there is no opportunity like that. So which means that I will have to come back to create a password individually for the user. So I will do same command for the third user, and the third user will be Ibrahim. All right, I'll enter. So that is created. And how many users we have? We have 3 users now: Chukuma, Ayo, Ibrahim. But for Chukuma, I have already given out a password for Chukuma. But for Ayo and Ibrahim, and also the last user, I will have to define the password much later after now. So now I'll go ahead to create an account for, or should I create account for Akpan? Okay. All right. So I enter. I have accounts for Chukuma, Ayo, Ibrahim, and Akpan. Okay. So I have the 4 students who are working remotely. Now, like I said before, creating a password, I have already done that by virtue of using add user for that of Chukuma. But for Ayo, I have to create a password, and that is done by using a command sudo, all right, passwd, which means password, then the name of the user. I'm creating for Ayo, all right. Oh, sorry, that is a mistake. So I'm creating for Ayo. and I'm giving a password for Ayo. All right, I will have to retype the password. Mind you, the password will not display because of security. So I'm done with assigning a password for Ayo. I'll do same for Ibrahim. I'll do same for Ibrahim. So Ibrahim, all right. So I will assign a password for Ibrahim and try it. Now I will repeat the same for Akpan, the last user. All right, Akpan. Okay, so I will assign a password, and mind you, this password is what the individual user will use to log in into my server. All right, so I have succeeded in creating password for the individual. All right, so the next on this category will be to create a group. It is very important to create a group, and you know what, this group is actually going to be used to classify or categorize the people you are actually looking at, the users. Now let's look at this. Supposing you are a lecturer or you are a system admin, you are not only working for finance, you're also working for engineering department, and you're also working for operation. All right, so you can choose to have a category, a group. Say these classes of users belong to engineering, while the other belongs to finance, and while the other belongs to let's say HR. All right, so for us to create a group that we are going to put all these users as a student, so we can create a group called student, and that is done by sudo group add. So I'm creating a group now. Sorry, I missed out G. All right, so I'm creating a group now, space, and the name of the group will be student. All right, students, and enter. So I've created a group named student, and now I'm going to add all the students to this group. Now how do I do that? I'll do that by using command sudo user modification in full, this a cap G, then the name of the group. The name of the group is student. All right, don't forget the name of the group is student, then space, then I can now add the name of the student. I will do that for Chukuma first. Chukuma. All right, and press enter. So that will add Chukuma to the name, to the group student, and I'll do the same for Ayo. Right, Ayo. Okay, and enter. That will add Ayo to the student group. I will do the same for Ibrahim, and that will add Ibrahim to student group. And lastly, I will do same to Akpan. Okay, and that will add Akpan to the group. So we are done with creating users account, and we have been able to create an account for each of the students that we are expecting to connect to our server remotely. Now the next step will be to configure SSH to allow remote login. Let's see in the next class. So welcome back to the next session. Let us clear off this from where we stopped the last. We'll clear off this. All right, so the next is to carry out a configuration SSH configuration to allow remote login, to allow this your user to be able to log in remotely. All right. So first thing first, you have to open the SSH configuration file, and to do that is sudo, and you are going to open it with any editor, text editor that is available to you. So for me, my text editor, my preferred text editor is VI. All right. So you open the file /etc/ssh/ssh/ssh d. All right. ssd config. All right. Once you enter, it will take you to the editor where you have the configuration file. So there you do your configuration. So enter. So it has taken me to my configuration file. All right. So now you can see I have what you need to configure, what you need to change for you to be able to have this remote login implemented is first, you have to ensure they permit root login and set it to no. So for you to start editing here, you have to tap on I for insert. And once you tap on I, you look down, you will see that the down, whatever you have at the base will change to insert. I'm doing that now. So you can see insert down there. So once insert is there, by tapping I, letter I, once the insert is there, the next thing is for you to use your up, down, right, and left key to maneuver. All right. So you can see the first thing to look at is permit root login. Just set it to no. The reason why you are doing this is to restrict any other remote login apart from the allowed users that is mentioned here. All right. So under the allowed user, you can see I have other users that I have given approval to access my machine. So in this case, I'm going to add this new user to it, and that is the first user is Chukuma. Then I space Ayo, then I space Ibrahim. All right, Ibrahim. Then I space who else? Akpan. All right. Okay. So once that is done, it is done. So what I'm doing now is I use the configuration file to be able to mention or to list the users that I want them to have access to my server. So once I'm done with that, the next is to save and exit. So for me to save and exit from here, I will first of all press escape button and the insert will go. And once the insert is gone, this is column WQ. W here means save and Q means quit, and then exclamation mark, and press enter. Oh my God. All right, was that safe? I have to go back to check. All right, I'll go back to check. That was not safe. I saw the mistake, so I have to do it again. Insert. All right, now the next one is Chukuma. We're going to be fast about it because we've done it before. Chukuma, Ayo, Ibrahim. All right, okay. Ibrahim. Ibrahim. Okay. Ibrahim. Then the last one is Akpan. Okay. All right. So these 4 users have been added to gain access. So after that, I will escape, then column q wq exclamation mark, so that I can enter. So it is safe now. All right, very safe. So for us to confirm if that is still there, we can still run the same command again to edit and check. So you can see it is there. So we escape and come out of it. All right, so after that is done, the next thing to do is to restart your SSH to apply all these changes. If not, the changes will not be applied. So to do that, you go to sudo systemctl restart. All right, restart your SSH and enter. So your SSH is restart, and for you to check if it is up and running, you have to also confirm it once again, the status of your SSH. Okay, so the status of your SSH is up and running. So ladies and gentlemen, we have gone far into resolving this assignment. So now we are done with this. The next step will be to provide the remote access detail to your staff or to your students, and that is simply to send the student's username and password so that they will be able to access the server remotely. And we'll see how this is done. Let's get to the next step. All right, so the next step here is to actually test our remote login to see if we can connect to our server remotely. But before we do that, we have to check and know what our our IP address is. So for you to do that, you can open another terminal and check for your IP address by typing IP show and enter. So this will give you idea of your IP address. You can see I have one interface that is, the other interface is not working. ETH0 is not up, and I have ETH1 interface working, and the IP address, my IP address is 192.168.43.156. So that is my IP address. So this IP address is what I have to send to the remote student. So the remote student will have three things. The remote student will have my public IP address, one, and my remote student will have detail of his account or her account, which is the username and the password. So the password, the username, and my IP address. So which means all the remote students should be aware of my IP address. If not, logging in would not be possible. Okay, after that is done, I am going to use what we call a terminal emulator. I am going to be out of my virtual box, and in this case I will use, because I'm using a Mac OS, I'm going to use what is called Termios. Termios is SSH, remote login terminal. All right. So you can use Terminus to log in remotely using your Mac OS. I think Terminus also work for Windows and other operating system, but I am currently using Mac and I am not in my Kali Linux environment at the moment. So what I am trying to do, I'm trying to log in. I've opened 4 interfaces here and I want to log in individually for all the 4 students. So let me start the first, and the command to use I will tell you. So the first I'm going to log in is, I want to log in for Chukwuma. So using Terminus, you put in, the command is SSH, all right, space, then the username, which is Chukwuma at my IP address. IP address is 192.168.43.156. okay, I will now connect. It should prompt for the password. Like I said, you need to have a password. So the password I sent to the user, remote user, you have to put that particular password to be able to log in to my system. So boom, we have been able to log in from Chukwuma. Chukwuma has been able to log in, and you can see here you have Chukwuma has the host name and Gali, which is my server name here. I mean, this is Chukwuma as a username, and this is Gali, the host name, right? Okay, so Gali has logged in successfully remotely. So the next, I'm going to log in for Ibrahim. So I will perform same SSH space Ibrahim, okay? Then my IP address 192.168, all right, .43.156. okay, so after that I will connect. This is the connect button. I'll connect, and a password, I'll be requested to put in the password for Ibrahim. So imagine Ibrahim is logging in, so Ibrahim will have to put his password. So Ibrahim is logged in, okay? So you can see Ibrahim is logged in. So if you check, you can see Ibrahim is logged in, okay? So if you want to check who, all right? So you see Chukwuma Ibrahim has logged in to the server. And if you want to check who am I, okay, you are Ibrahim. Thank you. So the next interface here, I will open it for the next user, who is Ayo. All right, so Ayo SSH Ayo, okay, Ayo, and my IP address 192.168.43.156, and press on the connect button. It will request for a password. So I'll put in password for Ayo and wait for the connection to be successful. Right. So connection is here. And who am I? Who am I here? Ayo. Right. So now the last but not the least, as we used to say those days in nursery schools. So the next is SSH Akpan 192.168.43.156 and connect. All right. So that is that. You have to put in your password, Mr. Akpan. So now Akpan is connected. Who am I? Who am I? I am Akpan. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have been able to provide a remote, not just a remote, but also a secured remote connection to my server with IP address of 192.168.43.156. All right. So that was a very interesting session, and we are going to look at the next step in the assignment. But this is 80% completed. So the remaining 20% will be to monitor and manage SSH logs. So let's get there.